We understand that some of the information that was delivered in the transmission in Sedona has caused quite a stir in your reality. To some degree, this was the intention, to stir the pot. But allow us to explain a little bit more clearly. First of all, there was a lot of speculation about why what was said was said. We will assure all of you that it came from us. It did not come from the channel. For those who would know the channel, you would know that the channel never would have said what we said, especially not in public. The idea is to understand that what was said was a response to a question that was asked about the energies associated with the choices you had before you. And the idea to pay attention to is the reactions that occurred, a couple of which were when the announcement was made, when the information was delivered, several people were surprised in a variety of ways, and some took it upon themselves to think, well, Bashar must be wrong, or Bashar has gone off the rails, or oh, the channel must be interfering with Bashar's message somehow. This cannot be Bashar. It is fascinating to note that for all the time that many people have been absorbing and receiving information from us on a variety of subjects, that as soon, no matter how long that's been, as soon as they have heard something that seems contrary to what they believe, suddenly the immediate reaction or assumption is that something must be wrong with the delivery, something must be interfering with the delivery, instead of a more balanced reaction of, well, that's interesting. I wonder why that was said that way. Or is it possible that this may mean something other than what I think? Or even, in your vernacular, as you say often, God forbid, I might actually be wrong in my beliefs. The idea is, of course, you can believe what you want. It is up to you. We are just observing the reactions and the idea that it gives us and the information that it gives us with regard to how ready people are for contact, how ready people are to be in a balanced state rather than thrown off balance. The idea also is that the information was simply an observation. Remember, we are not giving you an opinion. We are telling you what we see. When we answer a question, we are looking at the information embedded within the structure of space-time and simply reporting what it is we observe. As with anything, the information that we receive is of the moment and in the present, and as we have said, not a prediction, but simply a recognition of where the energy is at that moment it is delivered. Again, not an opinion, but an observation. Again, many may disagree with this observation, but it doesn't change the fact that that's what is embedded in the fabric of space-time. Also, the idea of delivering the information in that way, unusual as it was, we will admit, was the product of conferring with many other beings to make sure that the information was appropriate to deliver at that time. And again, for a variety of reasons. One of which was to accelerate the splitting of the prism that is going on in your reality, because several of the reactions to the information we delivered caused an acceleration in moving in whatever direction you had chosen to move. In other words, the statement ensured that the train tracks leaving the station would get farther apart, to accelerate the idea of the splitting and to bring about the idea of the evolution of humanity in a particular way, so that contact could occur in whatever way it needs to. The idea of saying that the feminine would lead to contact could have been said just that simply. The feminine would lead to contact. Or we could have said the feminine would lead to contact, the male would not, instead of the full delivery of what we had said. However, that wouldn't have been absolutely accurate. Both directions, in some way, shape, or form, will lead to contact. But it is the nature of that contact, the style of the contact, and the reason for the contact that will change according to which direction all of you decided to choose. We will be conferring, based on the outcome you have chosen, with many councils in our interstellar alliance, in order to determine what is now the most appropriate way for contact to occur. It will have shifted a little bit based on your choices, but it will occur. It is, in fact, at this point in your timelines, inevitable. We have said that it will occur within the next 5 of your years. This may still hold true. The idea is that there still can be a major event sometime in your late 2026, early 2027, that will begin this process. Again, not necessarily saying exactly the nature of this event or the causation of it. But like anything in creation, you will experience it in whatever way you have created your reality to be based on, whether out of love or out of fear. Not saying that the contact itself will in any way, shape, or form be fearful, but that the style of the contact may take its cue from whatever energy exists at the time in which it occurs. This will be the reason for much consultation, discussion, conferencing among us, so that we may determine the absolute correct timing, the absolute nature and style of the contact that will serve humanity best. But I do, in fact, repeat, it will be for the benefit and service of humanity, no matter how it is brought about, no matter what style it may appear in, no matter what course it may need to take, based on conditions that exist at the moment we determine that the timing of contact is appropriate. We encourage all of you to remain in a positive state, no matter what your belief system. And we will again reiterate that the idea of what we said is based not on necessarily actual physical individuals, but the idea of the qualities of feminine energy and masculine energy as they exist on your planet at this time. To take stock of either energy and to understand the importance and value of balancing that energy within you. so that the style of contact can be one that would be more completely representative of the idea of acceptance, of love, connection, and not necessarily of experiences that have to do with fear or disconnection or negativity in any way. Again, it will be for the service of humanity in the style in which it occurs. But we will, at the same time, remind you that we always have a reason for saying what is said, for delivering the information that is allowed to be delivered. There is always a purpose to it, even though you may not always be privy to that purpose. There are many things going on behind the scenes on your planet, some positive, some negative. Allow yourselves, without dissolving into conspiracy theories, as we have outlined in Step 1 of the Interstellar Alliance social experiment, but allow yourselves to understand there are many things going on behind the scenes. You have or are about to enter a new age on your planet, a new age of ideas of control, ideas of power, ideas of oversight, ideas that may bring about what appears to be a relatively peaceful world, though it may not necessarily be for the reasons that you think. Until such time as contact occurs to illuminate what is actually going on your planet behind the scenes, and to bring about a new understanding that will, at that moment, allow humanity to truly decide what direction it wishes to go in, how it wishes to evolve in the future, and how it can finally give up the illusion of power and focus on the power of the illusion. There are many things that are occurring and many ways in which we will communicate this idea in upcoming transmissions, revealing a bit more each time, and also more of how you can, in your own energy, remain in a balanced and positive state. For do remember, as we have always said, it's not about what happens as much as it is about what you do with what happens that determines how you experience your reality. There are some who will, in the upcoming times, in the upcoming days, weeks, months, find that what they thought was true is not so much. So we encourage everyone to remain in a balanced state, no matter what you believed to be true before, for there will be a new truth, a new understanding when contact occurs that will be revealed to you to allow you to open your eyes and see clearly for the first time in a long time how you have arrived at where you have arrived and where you can go from here should you decide to choose the path that is offered to you from your galactic family. All of this is said with the deepest love and appreciation and gratitude, and a reminder that Earth is a tough school. But despite all of that, it is a play that you are acting out on a stage, and regardless of who you may label, a hero or a villain, Remember that you are all actors, and that once the play is over, and you allow yourself to come from your soul center, you all recognize that you all simply chose to play a part that would allow for certain challenges to be faced and changes to be made that would thrust you into the future in a positive evolutionary path that will benefit all of humanity one way or another. And that the divisiveness that you now experience will become the very grounded foundation of the unity that you will create in the near future, in the days and years to come. So watch your definitions and understand that just like the actors in a play, no matter who is playing the hero, no matter who is playing the villain in anyone's eyes, when the play is done, all the actors will get together, give up those identities, and truly settle down to share a meal as colleagues, as friends, as family. Unity is inevitable, but only through the validation of the differences. In positive ways will that occur. We will remind you of this over and over again. And the ultimate reminder will be when we are face to face with you in the near future, at the time of contact, which is now, depending on style, and regardless of style, inevitable. For you have crossed a threshold, you have tipped the scales, and it is on the horizon. We thank you for allowing us to share this clarification with you. Please take it in the spirit in which it is intended, and understand again, we always have a purpose and a reason for the information we deliver to all of you, though you may not always be privy to that reason right away. A lot of this is a test. A lot of this is a measure. A lot of this is to let us know what you are ready for and what you are not. For again, there are only very few circumstances in which we will intervene. But should those circumstances arise, we will be among you to make sure, first and foremost, that the unique school that is the earth will survive. For that is our priority. It is not something to be taken lightly. We thank you, and in return for the gift you have always given us in interacting with you, I ask now, in what way may we continue to be of service to you? Please begin with your questions, if you wish.
Hi, Bashar. My question is, I've got dumped after a 26 years relationship, and as soon as she left me, she pretty much disappeared from my life like I've never existed, and she moved on really quickly with someone else after 1 month, and all of this make me feel like I'm pretty much useless to her. And my question is, why do I still, 6 months later, allow her to make me feel like that? Because I know I'm not, and my son demonstrated to me every day, my friends do the same, so I know I'm not, but I just don't understand why I still allow her to make me feel like that. This is my question. Thank you.
She doesn't make you feel like that, you make yourself feel like that. So her actions are pointing out to you that you're the one diminishing yourself. You're the one believing in your lack of worth. So she's giving you an opportunity to overcome that challenge, to know that you are worthy because you are getting signs that you are. It's giving you the opportunity to choose which ones you really want to pay attention to, which ones you want to believe are true. So you are still in doubt about your worth, which is why you keep wondering, why you keep reacting the way that you're reacting, and why you feel the way you feel about the fact that she is giving you this opportunity. So this is an agreement you have made to overcome your lack of self-worth and know that you deserve to know that you are worthy as the signs are being given to you by others in your life. Choose the path you really prefer and let go of the path that you don't.
Greetings, Bashar. How are you?
Good day. Perfect. And you?
Oh, I'm perfect as always. Yeah, this has been pretty synchronistic. My Wi-Fi went out as soon as my Zoom started, and that was a fantastic synchronicity, and it's a great practice of just letting go of any insistence of any outcome and staying in a positive state.
Yes, and then being able to tap into the information you need in other ways, like
exactly. It's like if this conversation happened in this way, that would have been fantastic, and if it didn't, it would have served me just as it was in that way.
A good lesson in the idea we have already mentioned in this transmission, that it's not about what happens, it's about what you do with what happens that makes the difference in your reality. Yeah, so, amen. Well done.
Amen. So I was in Sedona for your transmission back in September. And I know, a lot of people were taken back from the political statements that you made. So was I, but I didn't stay in a negative space. I quickly neutralized my beliefs and my feelings regarding those statements and went back to what you had just mentioned, that it's what we do that matters. It's the actions that we take. Anything outside of ourselves, it doesn't matter. And this has been such a fantastic opportunity for me to really hold true to my beliefs and not give in to any of these external circumstances. Because,
all right,
fast forward to the present time, we have a male candidate that is our, presidential leader again. And we all know what you had said regarding that. And it has really allowed me to address a lot of fears within myself and to transform those fears. So it has really just been a fantastic blessing, this whole situation.
All right. And we would like to address one more issue.
Go ahead.
Based on the surprise reactions that people had about the fact that we said anything at all regarding your politics, which is unusual for us. But the point is, it's not going to be that unusual in the future. Because as contact occurs, do you not think we're going to become more involved in every aspect of your society, including your politics? So the idea of conferring with our councils and the idea that we were allowed to even make anything close to what your people would perceive as a political statement is an indication of how close you are to contact in some form or another. Because we are going to be involved in every layer of your society, including your politics, your sociology, your economics, your religions. Everything will shift. Everything will change. Our presence isn't going to leave any aspect of your society untouched. So we want you to understand how everything in some way, shape, or form will shift, but it will shift in a way that will allow you, all of you, to process what you need, to face the challenges that you need in a way that will serve humanity evolutionarily to the benefit of humanity for your forward momentum into the future. So realize when you are asking for contact, it doesn't mean we're going to remain aloof or separate from you in terms of the things that happen on your planet. We're going to be involved in every aspect of your society in many different ways, technologically, sociologically, politically, religiously, spiritually, really, economically, everything. So that's what contact really means. The fact that we could address something even similar to a political comment shows you how close you're getting to having our involvement on your planet.
Okay, well, yeah, thank you for those words. And I like to bring up another event that occurred to me when I was in Sedona.
Yes.
And so I had just gotten to Sedona a few days before the event, and I met my mother, who now lives in Sedona, at Bell Rock, and it was around 9 o'clock at night, so the stars were out, and we went for a short hike to get into the beautiful energy of Bell Rock. And it was just so amazing to be there. And just the thoughts that were coming to my mind where, you know, I know contact is going to happen and is already happening. However, I don't need to put the insistence that contact does need to happen in order to feel fulfilled, in order to be happy, because I put so much emphasis on it over the past years, and so much pressure on myself to make all this happen. But ultimately, it's like that in itself is still a condition. Is still
Yes, absolutely. It's not that you need contact, and in fact, not needing it is what actually allows it to happen more quickly.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And so I was explaining this to my mom, and I really felt it within my heart, and it was so beautiful. And so we later went on back to the parking lot from Bell Rock, and as we were just about to get to the parking lot, I decided to stop and just take in the moment one last time, because it was that beautiful. I just wanted to soak every second of it in. And as I did that, I saw just the most amazing shooting star go from one end of the sky to another end of the sky. And that was just, my confirmation that I'm on the right track, another synchronicity. My question for you was that a shooting star, or was that possibly a ship that I had saw?
No, it was a shooting star, but the synchronicity is what's important for you. And you took it in the way that you needed to.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, the fact that it was a shooting star even makes it not that much more beautiful, but it was just perfect the way it was. So, yes. Okay. So one last question. I've had a few gray owl encounters, and I know others have as well. What is the connection between the grays and the owls?
Well, they simply use owls to project the idea of a masked image, so that if it is really not an owl, it is simply something that you're familiar with that energetically represents them, but is a projected telepathic memory, so that you won't necessarily see them as they are, but see something that you are somewhat familiar with, that you don't necessarily freak out about, but you understand there may be something unusual about it. It's called a screen memory.
Okay. Why owls though? Why not another bird or another animal?
Well, they have very large eyes. Like the grays.
Okay.
There are other animals that have been reported in those screen memories, like deer and some such animals along those lines. But owls, again, as you say, gray owls, well, gray, large eyes, and wisdom. Owls are wise in your archetype, yes?
They are.
All right. And they are, in the night, because of their wing structure, very silent. They are suddenly upon you before you know it, because you don't hear them coming. So all of those qualities and attributes do fit the grays as well.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, well, I appreciate your time, and thank everybody, physical and non-physical, is here participating in these interactions. All my love to you.
Our unconditional love to you as well. Avail. Good day.
Iliabe, thank you.
Hello. Firstly, I'd like to say thank you to Darryl and Bashar for all that they do for us. I have a question I'd like to ask Bashar, please. I understand from his teachings that when we are awake in the physical reality that we know, we are actually asleep because we are still in spirit and we have never left spirit. If that's how we perceive things, where are our spirit guides? When we are actually asleep and dreaming and back in spirit, are we able to communicate with them then? But then when we awaken back into the dream state here, do we forget them? So I hope that makes sense. So basically, when we're asleep back in the spirit world, are we able to communicate with our spirit guides there? Or are they in another dimension completely? I hope you can help me with that question. Thank you.
Yes, they're in the spirit dimension. Therefore, it's sort of like diving into the ocean and then getting back up on the boat. The people helping you are on the boat. You talk with them when you're on the boat, and then you decide to dive back into the water where now they're up on the boat and you're in the water and you can't really communicate. But then you go back up on the boat and you can talk to them again. So this is similar to what happens with your spirit guides. You focus on your physical experience, you withdraw within yourself. Now a portion of your consciousness as the soul is still there and still communicating with them, but as the physical being, you don't necessarily perceive all of that. But when you go to sleep, when you relax and go back into the connection of your spirit self, then yes, you're having communication. Sometimes you may remember them as dreams, or you may not remember them at all. Depends on how it serves a purpose to remember it, or how you remember it. But yes, that's basically what's happening. You focus down into physical reality. You want to focus on your physical life. You don't want to be interfered with. You want to be left to your own devices. The guides up on the boat will guide you subtly through synchronicity and a few other kinds of methodologies. And you can communicate with them freely when you're back up on the boat, but they leave you mostly to your own devices, just guiding you gently when you're under the water, when you're back in physical reality. That's just the way it works. It's the way you want it to work. Good day, good day, good day.
Good day, Bashar.
What would you like to discuss?
Well, I'd like to thank you, my deep appreciation to you for this interaction. And I would like to start with discussing step 5, volunteering of the Interstellar Alliance social experiment.
Yes.
I joined something called a threshold choir, which is a small choir of people who sing for people who are transitioning into spirit.
All right.
Hospice patients. And I was wondering, from a harmonic perspective, could you tell me how music helps to unlock people from physical reality?
Well, it can contain harmonics that are representative of the higher frequencies of the spirit realm, and therefore get them familiar by imbuing them with those frequencies, by bathing them in those frequencies, get them used to the vibrations that are representative of the higher spiritual realm and make the transition easier for them.
Oh, okay.
Sort of like lubricating the path.
Mm-hmm.
Putting them in a calm state that allows the transition to be smoother by bathing them in the harmonics of where they're going.
Oh, interesting. You recently described how our birthing process will evolve, and that we're going to be like in a dream state, and then we'll come out of that and there will be a baby there. That's simplified.
Yes, but that's many, many years down the road.
Yes, and I was just wondering, could you similarly describe the dying process, how that will evolve?
Again, far in the future, as you know time to exist, it will simply be that you will step out of, quote unquote, the body. You will expand yourself back to the soul level, the astral level, and the soul spirit level. The body eventually will no longer even be left. It will simply disappear back into energy in the way that it was formed.
Okay. Is there any transitional phase before that that we're heading
yes.
towards?
Again, It will be that the body will still be in your physical reality, but there will be no infirmity, there will be no illness. You will simply decide to leave. You will simply step out of it.
Okay. I was also wondering if you were surprised by the election results.
No, not at all.
Okay. I just have one more question. Now with step 6, the CE5s.
Yes.
Do you have any? It's getting colder here. I've been doing some here, but it's getting colder here, and I was wondering if you have any suggestions for other types of group gatherings where we can make ET contact, maybe indoors or in an environment.
Do you think that being inside a building would in any way, shape, or form be an inhibition for extraterrestrial contact?
Well, how would we see them if we were inside, really? I mean, we just look out the window?
You can either look out a window or you can allow certain phenomenon to appear inside the building, like spheres,
Okay.
energy spheres.
That's a good idea.
So, no, you don't have to be outside to experience contact. Invite them in.
Okay. That's a great idea. I'll just use my creative imagination to come up with something.
All right. Many people see orbs inside buildings, and some of those are representative of ET contact. Some of them are representative of spirit contact. So it's absolutely no impediment at all to have a building around you for an orb to go right through the ceiling or right through the wall. Remember, they're not in the same phase that you are. That's not going to stop them.
Yes, I appreciate that point of view, because I don't think most of us were used to doing it through CE5 outdoors, and it's not as common to have indoor ET contact gatherings.
Yes, all right, but again, it's not going to stop it from happening. It'll just happen differently, that's all.
All right. Well, thank you. I really appreciate this time we spent together today, and I love you.
All right, as do we appreciate it, and our unconditional love to you as well. Good day.
Good day. Aveo.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth. I live in Indianapolis, Indiana, and I believe that I've been contacted. It's been telepathic. However, these are not beings that are in an actual flesh and bone body. They're light beings. They seem to me to be plasma beings. I feel like I'm getting downloads that they're plasma beings, that they somehow carry consciousness. So my question to you, Bashar, is this true? Can this be happening to me? I see it in my backyard. I feel them, but nobody's listening to me. Is this really happening? Is this true? Can this be happening?
Yes, but all you may be seeing are the apparitions of your spirit guides or soul family attempting to say hello. So you can allow yourself through meditative practices, maybe even yogic breathing, condition yourself to be able to perceive them a little bit more clearly. So we would suggest that for you. It will center you, it will raise your vibration, and therefore you may meet them halfway so that you can perceive them more clearly, because obviously they are attempting to help you do that, to help you on that journey with that ability.
Hello, Bashar. Much love and gratitude to you. Thank you for having me.
It is our passion and our pleasure.
I have 2 questions for you.
Yes.
My first question. A few months ago, I had a dream I was in a house in the middle of a wheat field. Nothing around except the house. I remember going outside to the east side of the yard when I was approached by 2 beings. I couldn't make out their form or appearance. They escorted me to the west side and handed me a baby, then disappeared. As I held the baby up close, I realized that it was a synthetic life. It appeared semi-human, but it looked and felt synthetic. I remember looking at him and questioning how could this little being not have a soul. I recall touching its synthetic skin and it felt very soft. As I looked into its eyes, we began to communicate telepathically. I knew then that he was my son and felt profound love for him. I remember holding him tight against my heart, realizing that he did have a soul and that we are connected. The two beings then approached and said that the child needed to leave.
Yes.
I feared I would never see him again.
You will.
I remember crying as I held him close. I told the little one that I loved him very much, that I will always be his father and to never forget me, that we will always be connected through our hearts.
Yes.
I felt such a loss when the beings took him from my arms. I remember crying as they walked away.
All right. It's only temporary. You will meet again.
And that was one of my questions. And is he my child, and what type of life form is he?
It's a hybrid child. It's just that the synthetic idea came across because you are not used to the vibration of the hybrids. But then you did get used to it and saw that the being, in fact, does have a soul.
Yes, I felt a profound connection with him. As I looked in the eyes, the more I looked into his eyes, the more the love grew.
Yes. Now, part of the idea of perceiving it as synthetic is also because the hybrid beings and many extraterrestrials are also connected to what you would call AI intelligence. So you might have been picking up on that and understand that AI intelligence doesn't necessarily have a soul in the same way that you mean that word, but because of that connection, you may have picked up upon that quality. Nevertheless, you're dealing with a hybrid child, and you will meet again.
Fantastic. I have one more question for you.
Yes.
There are some of us within our private contact group having encounters with a group of Pleiadians that call themselves the Plejarians, either in the dream state or through meditation.
Yes, it's actually Plejarians.
Plejarians. I recently had a dream that 3 triangular ships were passing overhead.
Yes.
Each craft appeared semi-physical, as though they were entering our physicality from another dimension.
They are.
This is the second time I've had a dream with these particular craft. In my dream, we try to photograph them with our cell phones, but none of us can do it. We keep dropping our phones and not able to focus on the ships. Then I'm instantly taken inside one of the craft. I recall seeing male and female beings dressed in blue uniforms. Then I'm back outside observing the ships as they pass over the horizon. Suddenly, I sense an attempt by one of the female beings trying to communicate with me. She seems to be using another being as a conduit to facilitate the connection. She tells me that she cannot communicate with me directly because we are at different frequencies.
Yes.
She then shows me a 3D picture of this metal rod-like structure with threaded ends, each having different thread sizes. I remember trying to insert different screws to fit the ends without any success. I felt this to be symbolic of a type of conduit, and connecting the right screws would allow for a common ground for communication.
Yes.
And my questions are, did I make contact with the Plejarians? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes, Pleiadians, Plejarians, same difference.
Plejarians, okay. And did I spend time inside their ship? And what's your take on the conduit?
Yes. The conduit is a symbol of the idea of making an attempt to connect, but finding something that would act as a connector between your vibration and their vibration.
And what would that be?
It's the way you interpreted it, but it's also part of their technology.
And the screws symbolize?
Making the connection, finding the right way to make the connection.
Any suggestions on that, Bashar?
Open your heart with unconditional love the next time you may have this kind of an encounter, and you will find the right connection.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Much love and gratitude to you, and thank you again for having me.
It is our passion and our pleasure, our unconditional love to you as well. Aveo.
Thank you.
Good day.
Aveo. Good day. Thank you.
Hello, dear Bashar. My name is Nadezhda. I have another question about sudden death. What is the mechanism during a sudden death? Does the person know it will leave the body? Is it aware? How is he convinced to leave suddenly his body? Or is the soul being put by somebody out? And by whom? When is it asked if it wants to cross over, before or after dying? Thank you very much. avail. Much love.
Every soul determines its exit point. So at the time when the soul has determined that its life path has achieved what it needed to achieve in that life, that physical reality, it simply exits. No one is pulling it out. The soul itself is determining that it's done. Now, the exit point has a little bit of a window to it. In other words, it can be within a few years on either side of the actual exit point. So a soul could leave a little bit early or a little bit later, depending upon what it wishes to achieve or if there's unfinished business. But the idea is that every soul determines its exit point, and at that exit point, generally speaking, it will leave of its own accord. It will simply recall itself. It will wake up to the fact that its life path is done according to what it agreed to experience. Sort of like setting an alarm clock in your physical world. It will wake up when the alarm clock goes off. No one needs to pull it out. It simply transitions back into its soul awareness and is guided and met by its own soul family and its friends and councils and angels and spirit guides and what have you as a timed meeting by agreement, according to what the soul set for itself by agreement. Now, the physical mind may not realize it's about to leave, but the soul knows when its time is up, according to what it initially agreed to experience. So, no real surprise there to the soul. To the physical mind, yes, it may seem surprising. But in a flash of a second, the soul will remember, oh, this is where I decided to exit. And here I am, back in my soul self perspective.
Hello, Bashar. How are you?
Perfect. And you?
I am great. Thank you. It is an honor and a pleasure to speak with you today.
Always a passion and a pleasure for us as well.
That's wonderful. My gratitude for your transmissions and the formula, they have helped me so much. So my appreciation.
All right. What would you like to discuss this day?
I would like to talk about time. You've mentioned that all time is here and now. However, we experience time in a linear fashion.
Yes.
Why is that?
So that you can experience the process of change, the creation and discovery of new points of view, which cannot be experienced in a timeless state when you are aware of everything. So you create the forgetfulness that allows you to understand that you know everything and are connected to everything, so that you can play out the process of discovering a new perspective of yourself, because that is how creation expands, that is how the soul grows, because the structure of existence never changes, because everything is here and now. But the relationship to that structure, the experience of that structure, the perspective of that structure is what always constantly changes, which is what allows creation to expand. So you're playing your part in the expansion of creation by creating the experience of linear time so that you can discover something new from a new perspective through the process of discovery, through the process of change, rather than things simply being instantaneously there. Does that answer your question sufficiently?
Let me ask a follow-up question. So
Yes.
From the process of change, is that from remembering our past and thinking about how we want to be right now in our present, and so that's bringing up change?
Yes. By making the comparison that you have created in linear time with the idea of a progression from past through present to future, you give yourself the perspective necessary to experience a process of change.
Okay, so
in that process, you learn many different lessons that you otherwise wouldn't learn in the same way by being in instantaneous existence.
Okay, so one of our experiences with coming down into a physical body, or having the soul create a physical body for us, is for us to experience that. So if we wanted to experience time the way you do in our physical bodies, is that even possible?
To some degree, you can, but it will still be only that which is relevant for your physical experience, although you can expand it a bit. But let me give you another analogy. Look at it from a story structure point of view. How would you feel about a story that you were eager to hear or to see if it began once upon a time and then suddenly said, and they lived happily ever after? You would go, well, what happened in the middle?
Right.
So, by having physical linear reality, you get to experience the process of getting to happily ever after from once upon a time. Otherwise, there's no story, there's no adventure, there's no lesson, there's no learning, there's no growing, there's no changing.
Okay, that makes sense. So this might be related to it, but a different, maybe different perspective. In a previous transmission, you were discussing 9 levels of consciousness, and you talked about how the oversoul does not require a lot of space and it experiences time in a multidimensional way.
Yes, what we call simultaneous time. Now, in physical reality, you experience linear time. On the soul, individual soul level, you experience intermittent time because you can experience either linear time or instantaneous time. But on the oversoul level, it's instantaneous, simultaneous time where you have multiple experiences being experienced all at once. In the same way, again, by simplistic analogy, as if you were watching thousands of television screens and capable of understanding every single story being told on every single one of those screens all at once. That's the oversoul perspective.
Okay. And then what did you mean by it doesn't need a lot of space?
Well, the idea of collapsing time down to an instantaneous single moment is the same thing as your Einstein discovered, because space-time is one basic thing, just two different, shall we say, effects of the same idea. So collapsing the time collapses the space. No space is required because, again, space is also an illusion. It's a real experience that you can create, but it doesn't really exist in the way that you think of it as an actual place. Distance is an illusion. There's no distance between anything. Everything is here and now. Therefore, it's collapsing space as well as time, because that's the here component of the here and now. If now is collapsed, so is here.
That makes sense. Okay. So speaking of the oversoul, you described it as the hand and the fingers as the individual souls.
Yes.
Does each individual soul have multiple physical beings associated with it?
Over the course of time, it can appear that way, and that's what you typically refer to from your linear perspective as reincarnation. Because the soul, being an energy sphere, creates the body within itself out of certain vibrations that represent the challenge that that soul wishes to experience to help it grow. When the soul returns to its full form, its full shape, in other words, when the physical body has quote-unquote died or expanded back to the idea of the soul perspective, then it can choose different vibrations to create a different personality, to have a different experience, linearly speaking. Therefore, you could say that that is really the way reincarnation works, but the idea is that every new personality also has a different soul, because the configuration of vibrational patterns within the soul that created that different body had to also be different, and therefore it is, in a sense, a different soul. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. And so
it just depends on the perspective, subjectively, that you're coming from when you describe this process as to how you experience it.
Okay. So are these different beings from the same soul, or they're in different realities at the same time?
Oh, you're talking about parallel realities.
Okay.
That's a little bit different than the idea of the reincarnational realities that we just described. It's a type of parallel reality, but there are actually multiple types of parallel realities. So again, it depends on subjectively which type you're actually referring to. If you're referring to the idea that there may be what you would think of as multiple versions of yourself experiencing different pathways, that's one type of parallel reality structure.
Okay. From one soul, when it expands and then it contracts and it creates another entity, is that, you mentioned that it could be a different personality. So it could be a different, it might not be me, it might be a different entity.
Oh yes, it's not you, it's a different entity. And the soul is different as well. Because again, it's creating that different personality out of different vibratory frequencies within its energy. So in a sense, you can say from one perspective, yes, it's the same soul creating another physical body. But from another perspective, you could say, well, that's a different soul because it's made up of different energy patterns, because it's given different patterns to the physical body. And therefore, those patterns don't exist within the soul anymore at that level. It's a different soul because it's a different formula of vibrational frequencies in order to create that different, unique personality out of those different frequencies.
And then do animals and humans come from, I know they're different, do they come from the same soul?
A soul is an individual thing.
Okay.
Animals have their own souls.
Okay.
Animals are connected to the angelic realm. They're not angels, but they come from the angelic realm because they are representative of unconditional love.
Okay, I appreciate that.
But animals have their own souls. They have their own life paths. They are intertwined with yours, but they have their own.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Bashar. I appreciate your time today and all the information.
Our unconditional love to you as well. Aveo. Good day.
Hi, Bashar. This is Marcus from Norway. I have a question about a theory that I developed 3 years ago, which relates to the ideas of ships and physics. If we were to put a consciousness at the center of a ship and then facilitate the development of the ship and its technology to properly reflect what a consciousness does most naturally, which is to go into a state of flow, then developing the different modules of every module of the ship according to that knowledge, would that cause the ship to go into a state of flow? And if so, would that cause the ship to pass the upper third density threshold and therefore go faster than the speed of light? Thank you. We love you. Avail.
Yes, depending upon the material that you're working with. It's not going to happen for all materials. This is, in a sense, what happens with the ships that we use, is that they are crystallized versions of our higher minds. So, yes, what you're saying is true, and it raises the vibration above and beyond the threshold of physical reality when it is imprinted with that vibration and unlocked from any particular physical universe. It allows it to shift and reduce the idea of distance to nothing. So yes, in general, you are correct, but only for certain kinds of technological materials and substances that would allow that to happen. Your physical world doesn't have those substances quite yet.
Greetings, Bashar. I suffer from aphantasia, the inability to visualize. I'm always in darkness. I can't see anything since I was about 8 years old. I went to a Dolores Cannon session, and there was someone with me named Abel. That was his joke, short for ability. And it was taken away from me so that I can send up all this information in its purest form, not boxed up. But the problem is I'm sad about that because I can't picture anything, faces, people, places. Everything's new for me every day, and I embrace that. But my concern is that going to hinder me at all from reaching a higher frequency, a higher elevation? Because I want that. I need that. So if you could guide me in my journey, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Aphantasia will not hinder you one little bit. You just have to use your imagination to create the images that you feel are necessary in a different way. Maybe learn to draw them, or create a collection of pictures that you can look at physically in your world, which will be perfectly fine substitutes for the idea of not necessarily holding them in your imagination or your mind. So be creative with the idea of how to create pictures that represent what you need them to represent in whatever way, shape, or form your creativity and imagination so desires. Take advantage of what's available to you in your physical reality to replace that system with something physical. It will not inhibit you one bit from raising your vibration.
Hi, Bashar.
And good day to you, Molly.
We have a lot of questions today. I'm excited to ask.
All right, but before you do, we have a little continuation of the monologue. So, give us a moment. The idea is to remember, in this exchange, this day of your time, in this transmission, are two of the principles that we have discussed over the years, that we have been communicating with all of you. Number one, remember, it is not about what happens that matters. It is about what you do with what happens that makes the difference in your reality. Number two, the fourth step of the formula, to stay in a positive state no matter what occurs, even if it is objectively out of alignment with what you prefer. By staying in that positive state, it will allow you to extract a benefit from it. So staying in that positive state, remembering that it's all about your response to what is going on that makes the difference, are vitally important at this time for you to remember with regard to the subject at hand of this transmission. Now, let us remind you that when we spoke in Sedona, in that transmission, and we referred to female and male energies, we were talking about energies, not necessarily the idea of specific people. We allowed you to make that interpretation. Even though sometimes those energies can be applied to specific people, our purpose, as we have just said, in making what appeared to be a political observation, a political statement, was for the purpose of taking a reading on the pulse of your population in terms of your response and reaction to what was said. The idea, therefore, is that our Interstellar Alliance Council has now been in deep discussions for quite some time, since that transmission, about the differences that may occur in the upcoming years with regard to contact, not based on any political elections on your planet, but on your responses to the comments that were made. So the idea to understand is, while contact is still going to occur, is still inevitable within the next 5 of your years, we gave you that window of 5 years because there was movability, flexibility within that window. Due to reactions and responses that we received and picked up and observed in the collective energy of your society with respect to the comments that were made in our transmission, we have determined that there is now a high degree of probability that what we first suggested would occur at the end of your 2026 and the beginning of your 2027 may now occur somewhere more around your 2028 or 29. Because we now have to assess exactly based on what we have picked up from all of you, exactly how and why contact will occur on your planet. It will still happen, but the reasons for it, the style of it, may change somewhat due to our observation and assessment of information that people on your planet are capable or not capable of handling. Remember, as we just said in the initial monologue, we did not give you a political opinion. We gave you a reading of the energy that exists at this moment with regard to the idea of whether or not male and female energy will move forward in a balanced way in your society or an imbalanced way in your society. The most important thing that we can say at this time is this. We will put it in these terms. You have entered the age of what you term the oligarchs. The people that you choose to put into positions within your governments that you elect are not the people that are, in your terms, running things. It almost does not matter who you have elected, for there are many things going on behind the scenes that will come out in certain ways at certain times that will allow you to recognize how your world is really run and allow you the opportunity to work together, to talk to each other, to finally communicate instead of divide, instead of being divisive, instead of sticking to your own opinions, instead of basing them on fears, to finally break down the barriers and allow yourself not to be on one side or the other of the glass wall that creates the splitting prism, but to be the glass wall, to allow communication to flow in both directions, to get at the crux of the issues deep down and to not be afraid to talk to each other, to discuss with each other, to learn from each other, to hear each other, to commune with each other. Remember, you are all on the same planet, even if you are in different realities. We have talked about the idea of multiple variations of Earths, so do not be confused by this phrase. The idea in your minds is that you have one world, and it can be experienced that way even if you are in different realities as individuals. It can be experienced positively as one world if you allow yourselves to begin to truly talk with one another, to communicate with one another on a deeper level, to go around and get past your fears of what the others in your lives may think, may believe. It's about the idea of being willing to open up communication and making that the most important thing in your reality so that you can express your true self-empowerment as you move forward toward open contact. So even while our Interstellar Alliance is having a discussion on our end about how, where, when, and why contact will occur, inevitably, in your realities, all of your realities, the idea is that you must also convene discussions, communications, and have consensus on a very important level, regardless of the differences you may have in your perspectives. It's all right to be different. It's all right to have different points of view. It's all right to be yourselves, but you must make sure that those perspectives and those points of view are not coming from negative or fear-based beliefs. Find within each other the positive aspects of each other's perspectives. Learn, talk, discuss. Do not be afraid. Be open, be kind, be gentle. This is the most important thing. And to that end, as the presentation in Sedona initially of the description of how open contact may occur was the 7th step in the Interstellar Alliance social experiment, this is the 8th step. The learning to talk, the learning to communicate, the learning to dig down and to not be afraid, to share, to discuss, to see what is truly in your heart of hearts and how you have more in common than you think. Allowing yourself to come together, to move together, and to move forward in this way will allow open contact to occur in the most positive and constructive and beneficial way possible. Because it is, at this point, no matter what, it is inevitable. For there are many reasons for it to be so. Now, we will say one more thing before you begin your questions. The 8th step also includes a brief communication at the end of all of your questions today. Not before, but at the end. So you will let us know when your questions are done, when your timing is up. We will introduce briefly an entity from the Interstellar Alliance that we have never introduced before. In our language, this entity is known as Ashaya. It translates roughly into your language as the Oracle. The Oracle will deliver an oracular comment at the end of all your questions today. And part of the 8th step, and pay attention to this, it is vital, is that when this comment, when this oracular transmission is delivered, it will not be explained, it will not be interpreted by us, it will not be clarified beyond what is said by us. This will be left up to you. This will be another test, another observation of how you decide in working together to interpret what the Oracle will have said. When this transmission occurs, it will be repeated 3 times. We would strongly encourage you to actually write down what the Oracle will say, so that there will be no confusion and no misunderstanding of the actual wording of that transmission. But the interpretation, the clarification, the understanding or misunderstandings will be left up to you to have, and ideally will spur conversations among you, not only with those who may believe and see as you do, but with those who do not. To truly understand that you are in the same boat, all of you. There is something bigger than all of you, something bigger than your political divisions that is about to occur in your reality, that is coming up in the near future, that has to do with the ramifications of what contact actually means on your planet. And like I said in the initial monologue, the fact that we have made a comment you perceive as political will not be done again. We will now focus only on the idea of what you need and what you require and how you will benefit from understanding more clearly the information that we have delivered to you for many years about things like the principles of the formula and how you can create your reality to be more in alignment with your true essential frequency. For there is no more point and no more readings and no more observations that need to be made. The Interstellar Alliance Council has all the information it needs now to make an assessment of exactly how, when, and why contact will occur. And when we talk about the idea of open contact, we mean simply for those portions of your civilization that have not been experiencing what you would call public open contact in its history for quite some time. We have already reminded you that there are many indigenous civilizations and cultures on your planet that have been experiencing contact for generations. So when we talk about the idea of open contact, we mean for the entirety of the cultures on your planet, for no one to be left out and nothing to be left out. So, allow yourselves to rest easy, to take a deep breath, to move forward in peace, in love, in harmony, and again, most importantly, in communication. To talk with one another, to be okay with differences, but to not be insistent or resistant or headstrong about your point of views. Find the deep commonality between why anyone with any perspective desires what they desire. For the real reasons, the true underlying reasons, aside from the political or social or economic expressions of them, or even the religious expressions of them, the true underlying reasons will unite you. It is important for you to be united in approaching open contact. For again, when it occurs, we will be involved in every aspect of your society, every single one. You will interweave with us. We will interweave with you to become one society eventually. That is what joining your galactic family means. So, be prepared, be aware, be awake. So now I remind you the two principles: staying in a positive state, and it's how you respond to what happens that makes a difference. In some senses, in addition to what the oracle will say at the end of these questions, will mostly be the answers to any question you have in this transmission of a political nature. So be prepared for extremely brief responses to any question that may concern your politics, because we have already addressed, in whatever way we need to, the idea of anything you may be asking that has to do with your elections and your politics. So pay attention to what we've already said, because those are your answers, and those are the only answers we are going to give from this day forward with regard to that particular topic. So please now, if you will, in return for the gift you are giving us of allowing us to hold your hands together, walking forward toward contact, in return, how may I serve you? Please ask your questions at this time.
Thank you, Bashar. We do have a lot of political questions. Should I try and condense them?
If at all possible, because again, most will have the same answers that we have already given.
Okay. Did you observe our reactions to your political statement in Sedona? What did you observe? Did you accelerate the splitting?
We accelerated the potential of the split to see exactly how far the divisions that exist within your culture would carry you in the split, how far on either side you would go from the glass wall, away from it. And in that observation, this is why we now say it is so important for each of you, in whatever reality you are in, to come back toward the glass wall, to see each other through that glass wall, to reach through that glass wall, to make it permeable, to connect, to discuss, and to talk, because this is, in a sense, your final opportunity before contact to learn to come together, to learn to find out what the true issues underlying all the division and divisiveness are in your society. For it is something that isn't actually that real. It is something that is artificial to a degree. When you truly look at the underlying reasons for why you have the perspectives that you do, again, you will find that you have more in common than you think. It is time to talk. It is time to conference. It is time to convene.
If we are existing in a reality where we can see that the male has been elected, can it still mean that we are observing this through glass wall, or does it mean that we are essentially on the other side of this glass wall with this elected person? If so, is there still time to switch sides by following our passion and going more neutral?
We have just answered this question.
When you made your statement in Sedona, I presume you knew that the outcome of the election would be the male winning. Knowing this, your taking responsibility comment makes sense, that we must take responsibility for this path that we've chosen. If we voted for the female, what does it mean to take responsibility here?
What it means is that at this point, as we have said, it doesn't matter who you voted for. Taking responsibility is taking responsibility to your reaction and response to the transmission that we delivered. That's what we mean by taking responsibility. And we are now discussing the idea of the actions necessary to take responsibility for your responses and reactions by coming together and having open discussions, clear discussions, by understanding each other, by listening to each other, by really talking with each other. This is what's important now, and would be a true expression of your willingness to take responsibility for the initial reactions and responses that you had to our comments in our transmission. This is now what we're watching. This is now what we're observing. This is what's important to move forward, no matter who you voted for, no matter what your election is. As we said, this is a play playing out, and what's going on behind the scenes is actually more about what's really going on your planet than it is in terms of the play act that happens to be your elections. For that is a screen.
Are you providing transmissions to parallel realities where the US elected the female in this recent election? Do you personally find certain timelines more exciting than others? Compared to timelines where the female may have won this election, what positive aspects or opportunities do you see within the current timeline, both on a collective and individual basis?
I believe you are beginning to see how the way in which a lot of these questions are framed are now becoming irrelevant based on what we have already said.
Okay. Is World War III coming?
We talked about the idea of the imbalanced energy that is typically referred to as masculinity might lead in that direction. It doesn't mean it will happen. It will lead in that direction. Remember, the idea of what you might refer to as World War III does not necessarily have to be and never will be a nuclear exchange. So the idea is that it may lead by an imbalance of energies that are typically referred to as masculine style energies of aggressiveness, will lead closer and closer to the idea of what you will experience or call World War III. Again, it doesn't mean it will actually happen if you are willing to understand what we are saying to you in this transmission today.
Okay.
We are now speaking on behalf of the Interstellar Alliance Council. And we are giving you the result of the discussions that are ongoing in this council. So we would strongly encourage you to pay attention to the way in which information is being given to you, to listen to the wording, for it is precise. We said things would lead in certain directions, not that it was inevitable. But nevertheless, by allowing yourselves to begin true communication, you can pull yourselves back to the center, to be with one another, and to empower yourselves in a multitude of ways that will allow you to dispel the veil that you think is your political reality, which is nothing but a smokescreen for what is really going on behind the scenes, so that you can truly open your eyes and see your world for what it is and how you can truly decide together to change it in ways that will allow you to join the galactic community in a positive way.
I'm really excited about open contact, but I'm also starting to feel uneasy. I feel like it's almost like being excited about the second coming of Jesus. And I never want to be the one to be tied to dogma or feel like I am a follower, even if I'm a follower of Bashar. I also don't want to be accused of being in some kind of cult. Can you help me with these feelings of uneasiness?
Again, it's all about self-empowerment, taking responsibility for yourself, being responsible to others, to be yourself. The idea, as we have expressed many times, of what you call the second coming is the awakening of the Christ consciousness within each and every heart of every person. It is not about dogma. It is about claiming your own spiritual relationship to all that is, to Source. It is about being the unique individual that you are and being of service to others by being who you are.
Our political system is struggling to function as intended by our founding fathers. With corruption in politics and highly qualified candidates unable to compete against dishonest ones, what steps can we take to reform our government and improve its functionality? What principles or strategies should guide us how our country is governed?
We have told you what the next step is.
Would you like to share your impressions on the congressional hearing on UFO UAPs that took place on November 13th?
Any discussion of this is a step toward open contact.
Wonderful. Will the UAP hearings before the U.S. Congress be the vehicle where Pleiadians are introduced to the world as part of disclosure?
Possibly. This has not yet been fully decided.
In the light of the election cycle, we can truly see what diverging train tracks look like from the political left and right, based on your definitions of positive and integration and negative and separation. Would choosing either political side and shunning the other be fundamentally negative? Shouldn't we be integrating both sets of viewpoints in order to remain positive?
As we have just said, yes, it's time to come together. It's time to look at the train tracks in this way. There is a track, meaning one rail, There is another track, one rail. There is a third track in the center. Allow yourself to view all three of these tracks, all three of the rails. Allow yourself to be on the train that may be using these two rails, and you can be on the train that may be using these two rails, but understanding that there is a common rail in the center. Allow yourselves now to come back to the glass wall, as we have just encouraged you to do. Now is the time for this. All of the preparation, all of the buildup, all of the positive, all of the negative. Again, a transmission from the oracle at the end of these questions will highlight this idea in a way that will allow you to fathom in your own way, at your own time, the interpretations and meanings that will allow you to move forward. We will not comment on the interpretation. We will not comment or respond if you ask us, did we get the right interpretation? There is no right interpretation in the ultimate sense. You will each decide for yourselves, and you will each decide together what the interpretation actually means, but it is being delivered because it is time for it to be delivered, and it is something that will create a little bit of mystery in you to allow you and encourage you to explore that mystery together, to understand in fullness and in the fullness of time toward contact what it actually means for you.
Bashar, as a first contact specialist, will you be the one making physical open contact with Earth when it's time for the Sasani to do so? And since you have connections to Earth, how do you feel about this, and what does this mean for you personally?
I will be among the first contact specialists from my civilization, yes. Obviously, this is representative of my passion, or I wouldn't be doing it. So that's what it means for me personally. I am very passionate about interacting with humans on Earth because I understand and I can see, I can observe the incredible potential, the incredible power you have to transform your world into heaven on earth. But it requires that you come together to do so.
We are very excited to meet you.
As are we to meet all of you. But the yous that we will be meeting will not be the yous that you are today. So become the yous that are the yous who will meet the us's.
I've been following your steps of the social experiment for open contact, but I struggle with fear when it comes to gathering groups for CE5. I'm fine practicing alone, but fear of being labeled crazy in my conservative community holds me back from involving others. How can I overcome this fear and take action without missing out?
Do you understand that the leader of the congressional UAP investigation is a conservative? Therefore, both sides are interested in the idea of bringing out information that has to do with disclosure and open contact. Learn what is going on and who the players are, and that may assuage your fears by understanding that you can rely on simple information to describe what is going on, and that many different people from many walks of life and many belief systems are coming together with regard to the idea of disclosure and the discussions of UFOs and UAPs. And this is what we're talking about. It is one of the areas in which all beliefs can come together. The very concept of open contact can be connective and uniting, no matter what your personal, philosophical, or political, or economic, or social beliefs may be. It can drive you to explore what's at the core of all of them in a way that you can begin through deep communication with one another, looking past the surface representations that are not as important as the deep internal desires on a very simple level for what every human truly needs in life, to feel that they are worthy, that they are loved, that they are heard, that they belong. So let open contact and anything that has to do with it bring you together. Fear not. You are not alone in that endeavor.
If the Pleiadians are going to be the first ones to land, why don't we hear much about them or from them?
There is actually a lot of information about them if you will pay attention to the idea of things like UFO sightings. You will find that most of the sightings, the vast majority at this time, are actually Pleiadian ships. They're getting you used to their presence in a variety of ways. So, even though your news programs may not carry awareness of who these ships belong to, I'm telling you now, most of them are Pleiadian ships.
Are the ships on the videos that were published, are those the Pleiadian ships?
Some of them.
Can you describe what they look like?
There are a variety of types. Some of them, like our ships, are triangular. Some of them are saucer shaped. Some of them are cylindrical. It just depends upon the ship's function.
What technology was given to us by ETs in the past 50 years? And what will be the first 2 or 3 technologies that they will share, or you will share with us when open contact occurs?
As we have said, holographic recordings of your entire history, going back thousands upon thousands of years. Certain kinds of genetic, vibrational medical understandings, what you may term free energy devices, will also be part of some of the technologies that we will aid and assist you with, among other things.
And what technologies were given to us by ETs in the past 50 years?
Some of the ideas that were understood and reverse engineered from some of the retrieved UFOs that humans on Earth got their hands on have aided and assisted some of your technological breakthroughs over time with the aid and assistance of interactions with certain extraterrestrials and a few of your scientists. We are not going to go into specifics about that at this time.
Okay. Humans have a history of mixing genes with other species and civilizations. For instance, DNA testing revealed that my mother has 2% Neanderthal ancestry. Given this history of genetics mixing, my question is twofold. First, is it true that the Pleiadians are known for being exceptionally good-looking? Second, if so, are the Greys and hybrid aware that after open contact, the 6th and 7th hybrid races might include significant percentage of Pleiadian DNA if they mingle with humans?
There will be some mixing of Pleiadian DNA. There will be some mixing of hybrid DNA. This is all we will say at this time. Look to your understanding of Willa Hilla Chrissing to have a better idea of what we're saying.
Is she a mix?
Yes, of course she is.
With what?
Human and hybrid. And many other things.
You've been mentioning the mantis beings more frequently.
Yes.
You describe them as being very wise and as the overseers of the Greys being in the hybridization program. I'd love to learn more about their background and evolution as a species. Could you share which planet or system they originate from? What does it say on their interstellar alliance ID cards?
They originate from a dimension that is very similar in vibration to the angelic realm. They do not originate from a planet.
Do they actually look like praying mantises, and do they have any connection with the insect on Earth?
They do have a strong resemblance to the idea of the praying mantis insect. We will go into the idea of the connections that may exist between them and the praying mantises on your planet at another time in another transmission.
Did gray beings develop technology to travel to a parallel universe, our Earth, on their own, or using help from another race? If so, what race was it, and in exchange for what?
Again, they were aided and assisted by the mantis beings and a few others to have the technology to tunnel into parallel realities. Again, the idea was to make sure that they did not die out. It is of vast importance that certain experiences for the soul continue to develop, to afford opportunities for soul growth in the cosmos. This takes on awareness and knowledge of a whole different level of understanding of how the soul chooses to have experiences in physical incarnations in order for its forward momentum, its expansion, and its growth. There are programs that exist, so to speak, aided and assisted by highly advanced beings that provide many different forms of opportunities in physical incarnational realities for souls to grow. It is important that these do not die out. Therefore, it was perpetuated for the good of all, for the greater good of the soul's growth within existence.
Can you please elaborate upon the holographic device that you've spoken of regarding unveiling of humanity's true history? How would individuals access this device? Would there be multiple devices, etc.?
Yes, there can be multiple devices. Some of them will take on different appearances. Some of them will be spherical, almost like you're looking into a crystal ball. Some of them will sort of be tablet-like and be semi-transparent, where images will appear either over them or within them.
So you mentioned that this first contact event from 2025, 2026, so is being pushed to 2028, 2029. So referring to that one, this person says, I was wondering what would happen if the government, in their infinite lack of judgment, were to attack these ships.
Nothing would happen because any attack can be repelled easily.
How do your people address the problem of scarcity or scarce resources? Here, our economists have concluded that capitalism is the best method for allocating scarce resources, but this method seems very problematic in its current stages.
Why would you assume that we have a scarcity of resources? We can travel the stars. There is an abundance of just about anything out here. There is no scarcity. This is one of the reasons why it's so important for Earth to become a member of the galactic community, so that you can understand that there is an abundance of everything for all. There is no scarcity. That's an illusion that you have created on Earth.
There are some other individuals on social media that claim to channel Bashar. Can you clear this up for us, please?
As we have often said, this channel, known as Darryl, is the only outlet through which we will come. In the past, there have been a few that we have aided and assisted to get used to the idea of channeling other entities that they have made agreements with. But at this time, and for many, many years, this channel has been the only one through which we will come. No one else channels me as an individual. There are others who may channel different members of my society, but no one else channels my identity.
Do you and the Sasani people have facial expressions? For example, when you communicate telepathically and say something funny, do you physically smile or are you expressionless?
Of course we have facial expressions. We often laugh.
I had an encounter with grays in September 2024. I remember stepping outside into my front yard. There were gray, shadowy figures in my front yard and at my front door, and I knew they were grays, so gray ETs. I was lifted up into the air on board the ship. I was approached by a gray being. In response to her approach, I spontaneously generated a strong, large, high vibrational energy field. She smiled and kissed me on the cheek. If grays have no emotions, why did she smile and greet me with a kiss? Why did I generate such a powerful energy field? I've never done anything like this in daily life on Earth.
First of all, again, this is a hybridized gray, something closer to hybrid beings, and they have emotionality. As we have said, you cannot just simply lump the grays into one thing. There are many factions, and many have been hybridized and developed in certain ways. The idea is that exposure to her allowed you to feel your own true energy field on a higher frequency level. This delighted her, and that's why she kissed you, because you responded in a way that showed her that you were ready to accept that level of vibrational power in your own energy, that you were ready to be more of yourself. Therefore, she rewarded you with the kiss.
It's beautiful. Can you share more about the Greys' current and recent activities and interactions with us? Are they still abducting people since we are so close to open contact?
Again, remember that there are different things going on in those encounters. The idea is that very often people are brought up aboard the ships to interact with the hybrid children, to teach them about the idea of living on Earth. So there are many different reasons why people may still be being brought on board the ships.
I would like to know the purpose of taking children on a spaceship. My husband was taken as a child many times, and he's very angry about it.
He is very angry because he was never given the tools to understand that it was his decision as a spirit to participate in the hybridization agenda. The children can relate to the hybrid children a little bit more easily. He is just angry about it because he felt out of control because he wasn't properly prepared. So he can get over that if he is willing to understand that he made an important choice to be of service in the hybridization program. And he can ask for those encounters to happen on his own terms. Now,
I'm excited about the prospect of open contact, but a part of me doesn't want to get too excited because I know I will be disappointed if it doesn't come to fruition. How can I balance my excitement with acceptance for whatever comes to pass?
if you are interested at all in following the formula, you will remember that one of the steps is having no insistence or assumption about anything, just letting it play out. So remember, it's not absolutely vital in general that a society has to have open contact with extraterrestrial beings. So the idea is let it play out. The most important thing is that you live your life in the way that you need to, in a way that is exciting for you, in a way that is true for you. If anything is going to lead to open contact, it will be that. But it doesn't have to lead to open contact for you to live an exciting and passionate and creative life. So Don't insist on that idea as being more important than you living your own life. That's the most important thing. Open contact will occur in those realities where it is important for it to occur, where it is relevant for it to occur. We are telling you that it's relevant for your reality, but again, that shouldn't sway you from simply following your passion for its own sake. Remember, regardless of what you think it's going to get you. So when you drop your insistence that it has to lead to something in particular, like open contact, then there will be no disappointment because you will simply have lived a life that feels fulfilled, that feels creative, that feels loving, that feels passionate. And that's the most important thing.
But isn't contact inevitable within the next 5 years, like you mentioned?
Yes. As I said, this is what is relevant for your society. I'm simply saying it doesn't have to be a condition for you to live a life of passion and joy. Don't make it so. Don't rely on us for you to live a life of passion and joy. That's what we're saying.
In a previous transmission, you mentioned that the COVID vaccine was not harmful. Many people have either died or suffered serious side effects following the shots, both immediately following them and weeks, months, years later. Could you please explain why you made this statement? Could genetics, soul contracts, or belief systems affect how the vaccines affected us?
First of all we said is that the COVID vaccine is basically generally relatively safe, and that still holds to be true. The idea of millions of people being negatively affected by it is erroneous data. Your data is skewed. There have been some side effects. Some of it has to do with, yes, what you said, pre-existing conditions, life path choices, genetic malfunctions, so on and so forth. But the idea of the percentage of individuals in your society who actually experience negative effects from the vaccine are relatively rare. So you have false information that millions of people were harmed by it. The statistic is more along the line of less than 5 people per 100,000 that were affected negatively by the vaccine for one reason or another, because of the choices on their life path, because of their pre-existing conditions, so on and so forth. It still holds true that the vaccine is generally, relatively speaking, safe for most people. But it's up to you to decide what is true for you. Nevertheless, your data is skewed.
Thank you. We have some historical questions. Why was it so problematic for the Anunnaki to mine gold? With their advanced technology, couldn't they just tap into the frequency of gold and, quote, extract it from Earth? Were they
It's still a big job. It's still a big planet. And as we have said, they were sort of under what you would call a time crunch. Therefore, they needed assistance. They would never on their own have been able to extract enough of the material to aid and assist their world in time, had they not had that assistance.
And were they successful in saving their planet?
To some degree, yes. But again, remember that what they did in creating Homo sapiens was against their laws. So the idea is that then, once Homo sapiens existed, the Anunnaki that had recalled those groups back home then had to guide, had to watch over. They still continued to extract some gold, but did it in a way that simply added to what they had already collected. They used it in positive ways for the balancing of the atmosphere of their planet, but nevertheless were also consigned to figuring out other ways in which that could be done, so they did not take advantage any further, any longer, of the creation of Homo sapiens in a negative way.
And what eventually happened to their planet? Is it still around?
It's still around, but it exists in a different dimension, and it is more connected to the star system you know as Cygnus.
And what do they call it, the planet?
Are you asking for the Anunnaki's own language for their own world?
Yes.
Ashea.
Thank you. Many people use the biblical book of Revelation to point to events happening in the future, which they think is now. Others say the book was referencing Rome at that time. Are there really any truly prophetic verses in the Bible that corresponds to events happening now?
Yes, some of them. We're not going to go into detail about that. It serves no relevant purpose at this time.
Researchers at the Pyramid of Giza discovered what they call the Pyramid Inch stone, which they have extrapolated along with corridors of the pyramid to be a timeline of the future corresponding to major world events. The timeline appears to end in 2033. Is there any validity to this, and does it coordinate with open contact occurring in this window?
Yes, it does, because everything changes after that point. As we said, open contact will occur most likely within the next 5 years, and the changes that will result from that will start to really impact the direction of humanity from that point forward. So basically, your 5 years leads up to 2030, and then 3 years after that, you will see a massive directional shift in humanity between 2033 and 2050 that will reset the direction of humanity for its future evolution. So yes, it's generally accurate in terms of when humanity changes direction and shifts its frequency in a new direction that will help it merge with the galactic family. It will be in the future remembered as an important shifting year, 2033, an important year of shift, an important direction change, what you call a sea change.
33 is also an important number. Is that correct?
Yes. This is why we operate in the idea of threes, because creation and existence is a trinity. Therefore, vibrationally speaking, the double 33 is a very powerful transformational gate that you are going to walk through.
In 1566, there was a UFO phenomenon over the city of Basel, Switzerland. Many discs appeared to be flying over for a day. This sighting reappeared 3 weeks later. It was recorded by many people in the local newspapers. What was that? Is that city a vortex for UFOs?
It is, but what they experienced was a wave from one parallel reality to your parallel reality of another wave of the grays coming through.
I read a book by Ramtha where he mentions events that are supposed to happen to our planet. He spoke about the fall of the world as we currently know it. Many things I learned from him resonate with me, but the idea of societal collapse does not. You have often spoken about the fact that we create our own reality. Does this mean that the idea of the collapse doesn't Does this mean that if the idea of the collapse doesn't resonate with me, it won't happen? Also, could you share some information you might have about Ramtha?
We will share nothing about Ramtha because we do not endorse or deny any source of information. But the idea of the collapse is simply that you are using a negative definitional word. We have already talked quite extensively about the idea that your entire society is about to be reset and restructured, especially with regard to open contact. So you can look at that as the dissolution of your old society, a collapse, if you will, but a reinvention, a restructuring of the idea. And you are part of that. So you'll be around for it, But you don't have to see it as a negative collapse. See it as a restructuring, a redirecting, a reinventing.
My 5-year-old autistic son recently came to me with a piece of paper. He had written Orpek on the paper. He told me that this is his spirit name. He's only 5, and we do not really discuss these things. He asked me what my spirit name is, and I didn't know what to tell him. Why did my son do this? What is
Because
the
children are still strongly connected to spirit, especially up to the ages of 7 and 10 even. They still know their connection to spirit. They still can communicate with spirits. So it's natural for a child to remember themselves as a spirit, as a soul, and can transfer a lot of information about the spirit realm to those in physical reality. So pay attention.
Can you explain the concept of time in a way the physical human mind can understand? What is time, and what role does it serve?
Well, as we said, time is a side effect of your consciousness shifting through multiple parallel realities billions of times per second. The idea of time is so that you can experience the process of creation. It's like saying, in a timeless state, I'm going to tell you a story. So here's the story from a timeless perspective. Once upon a time, and they lived happily ever after. What happened to the middle of the story? What happened to how did we get from once upon a time to happily ever after? What was the process? What was the adventure? What was the experience? What were the lessons? How did it grow? How did it change? What was the path? So, time exists within the soul, a certain focus of the soul, to experience the process, to experience the story unfolding, so that you can discover yourself from a new point of view. That's how creation expands. As we have said, the structure of existence never changes. What changes constantly, what expands creation, is your relationship to it, your perspective of it, your experience of it. And that's what time is for, to allow existence to continue to expand infinitely, so that you can discover yourself from a new point of view, which allows existence and all that is to experience itself from a new point of view, constantly, constantly, constantly experiencing itself, changing, expanding, growing, learning, being new. But the structure never changes. It is what it is. Existence is what it is. The experience of existence only happens with the idea of time. Otherwise, there's no experience. Things just are.
Is it possible to become too dependent on our permission slips, such as with crystals? I had something happen and I reached into my pocket to hold on to the crystals, and I realized I'd forgotten to put them in there and started to freak out, thinking I needed the crystals to keep me in the positive, even though deep down I know it's not true.
Well, if deep down you know it's not true, then you know that the answer to your question is yes, of course. Anything can become an addiction from the negative side. The idea of anything you use as a permission slip is to teach you that the power is coming from you. It's just that you happen to be using a particular device that aligns with your belief system to allow yourself to be more of who you are. So, yes, if you rely on it more than you need to, then yes, it can become a crutch. It can become an addiction. So the fact that you panicked when you realized you didn't have it might be a good indication that you need to start allowing yourself to wean yourself from that, so that you can understand more clearly that you're the one that has the power, and that the permission slip is just allowing you to be more aware of that. It's not coming from the permission slip. It's coming from you.
And this next person says, my contact crystal broke. Is that a symbolic representation of something? I still feel my heartbeat when I do the meditation on it.
Yes, in that sense, it doesn't really mean that much. The idea of the contact crystal breaking can be slightly a permission slip recognition that the idea of open contact has been slightly postponed. But that's all. Don't worry about it.
Can you tell us why it's been postponed?
I already did, didn't I?
I
Your
suppose.
reactions to the comments that were made act as a barometer that tell us whether you are or not ready for contact. So there is still a little more work to do. There is still a little more clarification to be had. And this is why we encourage all of you to start talking to one another, regardless of your belief system. Do that work, and the nature of open contact will become more positive. Refuse to do the work, stay sequestered in your differences and divisiveness, open contact will take on a different flavor and a different color. It will still happen, but you may prefer the version of open contact that is more representative of coming together than being divisive. That's all we will say about that.
This person says they saw Wicked last night, the movie, and it was a thrilling experience. Why is the story of the Wizard of Oz and its iterations so significant in our culture?
Well, again, what we've been talking about, the idea of two different points of view that can come together or that can be flung apart. Which will it be? So use your magical selves, be the wizards that bring the two sides together so that the land of Oz, your world, can live in peace and harmony and respect instead of being so divisive. The splitting prism doesn't mean that you have to experience the idea of divisiveness. It simply means that you will experience whatever is relevant for you. It's not a contradiction or a mutually exclusive state of affairs to the idea of harmony and peace on your world. So create a new reality. You can shift. You're still splitting to new realities. You're still moving, still shifting through different parallel versions of Earth. But you can certainly do that with more togetherness than divisiveness. We would love to welcome all of you. Not that we have to, but we would love to welcome all of you and introduce all of you to your galactic family. But you're the ones in charge. Remember, fear and negativity are not conducive to open contact. That's all we will say. And we are not pointing fingers at any one side. You both have an abundance of fear and negativity. Let it go. Talk to one another. Support each other. Explore each other. Find the deeper issues in each other that you can all agree on. Recognize in each other's character what is representative of a willingness to be a true person and what is representative of being something out of alignment. So, discern, but work together to do so. Again, there's a lot happening you are unaware of on many different levels. Come together, find out what that is, make a declaration of true independence. Move forward together. The time is close approaching for the introduction of the oracle. Are you done with your questions for the moment?
Yes, that is the end of our questions. Is there anything else you would like to add?
We will now add and allow and facilitate what the oracle will say. Once again, we remind you, before the oracle speaks, the two most important things that we have shared with all of you at this time on your planet to move you toward contact in a positive, creative, peaceful, harmonious way is to remember that it's not about what happens, it's about what you do with what happens that makes the difference, and to stay in a positive state no matter what manifests so that you can get a benefit from it. Remember those two things along with what the oracle now has to say. Again, we encourage you, since the oracle will repeat this 3 times in its transmission, to write it down so there is no misunderstanding. And again, I remind you, we completely leave it up to you to understand, to divine the meaning and the mystery and the interpretation of what the oracle will say. We will not help you with this. This is left in your hands. But use it creatively. Come from your heart. Come from your soul. Everything will be fine. Everything will be fine. We will now allow the facilitation of the oracle, who will repeat the transmission 3 times. The dark night of the soul calls forth the light within. And when the light of truth comes forth, the blind shall see once again. The dark night of the soul calls forth the light within. And when the light of truth comes forth, the blind shall see once again. The dark night of the soul calls forth the light within. And once the light of truth comes forth, the blind shall see once again. This is a being from the Interstellar Alliance Council. Again, it translates in your language simply as the Oracle. This was an oracular transmission. There may be more in the future as we get closer to the idea of open contact. We will leave it to you to ponder the mysteries inherent within the oracular transmission. We will thank you at this time for allowing this transmission to occur. Our deep appreciation to all of you. Our unconditional love to all of you. Take heart. Be at peace. Continue to breathe. Relax into the remainder of the transmission. Just breathe. Just breathe. Just breathe.